Pitching in the major leagues is one of the most difficult things to do in any single sport. Oftentimes, young top prospects come up from AAA, try to find their game at the major league level, and struggle. For many, this is the first real struggle in their pitching careers, and they need to make adjustments because that's what the game of baseball is all about. And I've got 5 guys who I think are going to make huge adjustments here in 2024 and become stars. Let's go. First up, I want to understand what a breakout is in my mind. Any pitcher with an ERA plus of 100 or higher has already broken out in a sense. They've been league average or above. None of my guys have hit an ERA plus of 100 or above in any season. And we are going in order from number 5 to number 1. I am most confident about number 1 breaking out and least confident about number 5. So let's kick it off with number 5, Taj Bradley of the Tampa Bay Rays. When you take a look at Taj Bradley, there's many things that I like. I love his velocity. I love his movement. You can clearly see that in his baseball savant numbers. That fastball velo is elite. That K rate is elite. But there's some underlying metrics that I do not love. He gives up far too many home runs, and a big part of that is because of his location. And when you take a look at the heat maps, you can see that fastball, cutter, curveball, split finger, everything is living in the middle of the zone. Taj Bradley needs to learn how to locate better at the major league level so he doesn't get burned as often. That fastball needs to sit at the top of the zone. The curveball and the splitter need to finish down in the zone. The cutter needs to finish away from righties, into lefties. Really learn how to bury that pitch to the specific part of the strike zone and out of the strike zone. If Bradley can do that, he's going to elevate his K rate even higher, and he's going to limit hard contact. And that's where he got burned so much in his first season, in his first 100 innings in the major leagues. So how can he better refine his location? Well, for me, it's all about extension and finishing those pitches. He's not doing that in the proper way. You can see by his baseball savant number, his extension is one of the lower ones in the league. It is below average. He needs to finish out, especially with that curveball and that cutter, finishing all the way through his fingertips and getting out there and extending with the baseball. That's going to allow him to better locate his pitches and not hang them in the middle of the plate. The cutter really needs to be finished and pushed away from a righty and into that lefty. That curveball needs to be snapped down. That changeup needs to be extended out. He needs to get out of the middle of the strike zone. And if he can do that, he's going to be explosive because his fastball and his movement is so good. He is going to have a huge K rate. The fact is K rate is what it is already shows you how effective his stuff is. He just needs to get out of the middle of the zone and be down in the zone and away from righties, and he will excel and limit hard contact. So I have Taj Bradley as one of my 5 to break out in 2024. Number 4 is Houston Astros starter Hunter Brown. And some of you are going to say, well, you're already cheating. Hunter Brown had an ERA plus over 100 in 2022. Yeah, but that was in 20 innings. That doesn't count. In 155 innings in 2023, he put up an 83 ERA plus. That's the number I am really looking at for Hunter Brown. And when you take a look at his baseball savant page, there's a lot to like still about Hunter Brown. He also has good fastball velocity. He was getting burned with the breaking ball. And yes, his fastball run value wasn't that great. I think that's the ability of hitters to sit on the fastball because he's not being effective with any breaking pitches. His split finger pitch was very effective. And I think that's something he should really grow with in 2024, throwing it more often. And for me, one thing I think Hunter Brown needs to do going forward, he needs to stop tinkering with so much. He needs to drop this idea of a sweeper and a sinker and a splitter and a slider and a curveball and a fast. Too many pitches. You got to simplify. 3 to 4 very good pitches, and he will be a very effective starter. For me, I'd really focus on that slider splitter along with his fastball, maybe mixing in a bit of a sinker, in particular against left-handed hitters, and being able to get them to ground out a little bit more often. Although his ground ball rates were very, very good, as well as his extension. He, again, like Taj Bradley, needs to avoid harder contact, but I think his pitch mix allows him to do that better than Taj Bradley at this time, as well as his location. For Hunter Brown to take that next step, he really has to learn how to finish that curveball down and finish that slider away. Again, far too many pitches in the middle of the zone or upper part of the zone, especially with the curveball. He really has to find that release point and finish it down in the zone. But the fastball splitter combination is so good from Hunter Brown. I think that's something he can really, really use. A la a Kevin Gausman. You don't have to throw as many breaking balls when the splitter is that good. So if he can refine that split finger pitch, elevate the fastball with that good velocity, I think it is a big time chance for Hunter Brown to be one of the top pitchers in 2024. Next up is Seattle Mariners starting pitcher Bryan Woo at number 3. And what do I love about Bryan Woo? It's his ability to throw the fastball and the sinker, which is going to be effective to righties and lefties. That fastball up in the zone, that sinking two-seam pitch down, especially down and away to lefties, is so effective for Bryan Woo and allows him to really play off that changeup then to left-handed hitters and even at times to righties. And you can see from his Baseball Savant page just how effective that fastball is for Bryan Woo. His expected ERA, expected batting average, fastball velo, average exit velocity, all well above average. Barrel rates, hard hit rates, also very, very good. The extension is very good. But where does Bryan Woo need to improve to take the next step? Well, that's the fact he gave up 13 home runs in only 87 innings. So he's getting burned, especially on breaking pitches. Now, what's happening with Bryan Woo is he's not throwing enough competitive breaking pitches, especially with his slider. His slider too often is finishing way out of the zone or way low, where it doesn't ever look like a strike to the batter, and they can easily take the pitch. If Woo can really find that release point and consistently bring that slider closer to the zone, 2-3 inches off the plate, 2-3 inches potentially below the strike zone, where it looks like a strike to ball pitch, he is going to get more swing and miss, which is going to increase his whiff rates and decrease his walk rates. It just stands out with the heat map with that slider. It's consistently living on the edge or even in the zone, and that is not an effective pitch for the slider. It needs to be consistently just outside of the zone, away to righties, down and into lefties. And if he can make that adjustment, it's going to be a big step forward for Bryan Woo. It's going to lead to softer contact. It's going to eliminate some of those home runs, and it's going to allow him to go further into games with a higher whiff rate, a better chase rate, and less walks. And if he can do that, Bryan Woo is going to be a star for the Mariners in 2024. My number 2 guy is a player I got to see live in August, and that is Diamondbacks starting pitcher Brandon Pfaadt. And I will admit, I am a huge Brandon Pfaadt fan. I love the way he pitches. I love the way he moves the ball around the strike zone. But I also understand he had a 5.72 ERA in 2023, a 76 ERA plus. However, it's the playoff numbers that make me believe in Brandon Pfaadt so much. He brought his ERA down to 3.21, pitching against the best teams in the National League, and he was so effective. And what do I love about him so much? It's the sweeper, that huge breaking ball that he has mastered, it seems, and was so effective. Even in the regular season when he struggled, looking at his Baseball Savant page, you can clearly see how effective that breaking pitch was. He also has a tremendous walk rate. He gets great extension, which means he's really finishing that breaking ball. Now, where we saw him break out in the playoffs in particular was he started to put together the high fastball as well as a sinking two-seam fastball both in and away to left-handers who really caused him troubles throughout the season, but he found a weapon to really use in the playoffs against lefties. And if he can combine that with an ever-improving changeup, I think Brandon Pfaadt has the makings of a very strong starter in 2024. So the way I'm looking at Brandon Pfaadt, if he has that fastball sweeper, particularly the four-seam fastball sweeper that he can use against righties, a sinker, an ever-improving changeup away to lefties, and in with that sinker as well, that kind of inside hip-thrown two-seamer that runs back to the plate, I think he can be very effective. He can also throw that sweeper down and into lefties as well. We saw that in the playoffs. If he can improve his control, really stay out of the strike zone, live on those edges, and avoid that hard hit contact, I think Brandon Pfaadt is going to really increase his K rate, really decrease the hard hit rates, and really change things up for batters and give him a look they haven't really seen, but was very effective for him in the playoffs. When I first started making this list and coming up the players I thought would really fit well, who improve and really take that next step in 2024, I had this player on my list. Then I completely disregarded him, but now I've come back and have him as my number 1 breakout pitcher for 2024, and that's Cincinnati Reds starter Hunter Green. I think Green is going to make huge strides in 2024 because of the little research I did and found he is effectively now throwing 3 and even 4 pitches at major league level. And I've really seen some great looks from him in spring training and think this is going to be highly effective for Hunter Green moving forward. He absolutely needed at least a third pitch, and I think he's found it, so he's number 1 on my list. And when you look at his baseball savant numbers, he is above average in expected ERA, expected batting average, fastball velocity, whiff rates, K rates. All that is absolutely wonderful, but he's below run value average with his fastball, his breaking ball, and his off-speed pitch. And you say, well, why is that? Well, batters with Hunter Green can sit velocity or they can sit spin. They really didn't have to worry about his changeup. And when he did have to worry about it, it was thrown in the zone far too often, and batters were teeing off on it like a batting practice fastball. So what has Hunter Green done to adjust? Well, in the offseason, he added a splitter and a curveball. I'm not as high on the curveball. I've seen it a few times. It's not a pitch I think he's going to effectively throw in this season. I think it's going to be towards next season if he continues to work with it. But the pitch that I absolutely love is the splitter because he can effectively get it down in the zone. It's not a pitch that's going to hang up there. It's not going to look like that batting practice fastball that his changeup looked like so often last year. With that new weapon, that's going to really help Hunter Green, in particular against lefties. They're going to have to sit velocity, and then they're going to have to adjust that splitter. And that is a huge adjustment, especially if he can throw it in the mid to high 80s. That is a wicked splitter for Hunter Green and is a game changer in 2024 for Green. If Green can make these advances, I think it's going to be a huge difference because of the absolute incredible velocity that is. He already can sit at the top of the zone with that fastball. And if he can tunnel the splitter out of it, fastball up, splitter down, that is a nasty, nasty weapon that the Reds ace is going to have for this season. So that's why Hunter Green is my number 1 guy to break out in 2024. Thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of another 3 Up, 3 Down video here. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel as we make the push for 500 subscribers, hoping to get there by the MLB All-Star Game, if not sooner. As always, make sure you go check out some of my previous videos. I've done a ton of MLB preview videos leading up into this 2024 season, so make sure you go check those out. Or if you're into baseball analytics, I have some videos on that out as well. Till next time, take care, everyone.